Hello everyone. Welcome to Tourism Overhall. I'm your host, Kerry Hall, and we are here today on location at the exquisite landmark villa in the parish of St. James. Now this is a beautiful property and a prime example of the amazing and diverse types of accommodation we have here on the island. Now today, we're going to address a very critical issue, that of the technological trends, particularly the rise in digitization that is currently sweeping the globe. Now you may know, there is a digital revolution disrupting global travel and trade at a rapid rate. And this has the potential to shape the future of the travel and tourism industry. And in many ways, the future is now. So today, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about this significant development, how it's going to impact us not only here in Barbados, but the wider Caribbean region, and how we're going to capitalize on the benefits and opportunities for innovation this digital revolution brings. So I have this special guest for us today, the newly appointed Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, Mr. Rodney Taylor. And he's going to assist us in navigating through these digital waters. I look forward very much to this conversation because I do believe it'll be a most robust and stimulating discussion. So without further ado, let's get started. Hello, Rodney. I'm so happy to have you here with us today to have this, what I expect to be a very in-depth conversation on the whole issue of the digital revolution that is currently sweeping the globe. But before we do that, I first would like to congratulate you on your new appointment. As a true Bajan son of the soil, we are so proud of you. We are so happy at this, your latest achievement. And on behalf of all of Barbados, I would like to tell you that we are behind you because your success will be our success and also the success of the entire region. Because even though you're Barbadian, I know you're a regionalist, and we expect wondrous things from you. So I just would like to first thank you for being here and to congratulate you on your new post.
Thank you very much, Kerry. I appreciate that as well. I am a regionalist at heart, and that's why I sought to work in this capacity with the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. There are a lot of Barbadians, of course, who had regional institutions who work in the interests of our community on a daily basis. So I'm just happy to be one of them, to be able to push technology at the regional level, especially at a time like now where it is front and center of all of the policies in terms of economic development and transformation.
Okay, but before we get there, let's learn a little bit more about you, Rodney Taylor, the man, and tell us about your journey and what made you get into the field of technology.
It sort of just happened. So many years ago, I started my journey in the immigration department, the Barbados Immigration Department. And when I first got to the immigration department, there was no computer system. So if you can imagine trying to manage your borders, trying to manage passports, trying to manage citizenship applications, all of that in a paper-based environment. That's where I started. And so they introduced a system to allow them obviously to manage this, all of this data, the applications more effectively. And so that's where I started. I was actually an immigration officer. They introduced the system, but I had recently graduated with a first degree in business administration. I had done a few courses on information technology. And so that's where it started. And then from there, I moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to be the manager of the information systems, develop their technology globally, roll out the communication systems for all of the overseas embassies and consulates and stuff like that. I then moved to the CTU for a few years in the capacity as business development and operations manager, where I helped the CTU to drive business, bring in sponsorship, consultancy.
This is the same CTU that you're at now?
Same CTU I'm at now, yes. And then I left there, came back, Government of Barbados, worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I headed the CARICOM and Caribbean Relations Desk. So that was my foray into diplomacy. And so I understood very well about CARICOM and Caribbean relations, right, from a diplomacy point of view. And then I transitioned to what was then the Data Processing Department, which is now the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology as the Chief Digital Technology Officer. And then, of course, this opportunity came up and it was made available to me.
That is great. That's an amazing career path.
Thank you.
And as you just said, this is timely at a time where we need, where digitization, the rise of digitization around the world and the use of technology, particularly in a post-COVID environment, because I think it really proliferated during COVID. I think you've landed in the right place at the right time, where we really need now as a region to be looking in this direction. But the CTU, I must admit to you, before you as a Barbadian took up this post, I was not aware of it, had never heard of it. And I understand now it is one of the most critical agencies in the region based on your mandate. But I don't really know what that mandate is. So could you tell us a little bit about what the CTU is and the mandate that you have for the region with respect to the digital economy?
So prior to joining the CTU in 2010, and I'm not surprised you didn't hear about the CTU, because prior to joining the CTU in 2010, I will confess that I didn't know about the CTU either. And I worked in technology for a long time. But it was a regional organization. It was there doing its thing quietly. And if you're a practitioner, you didn't necessarily have to connect with the CTU. I'm trying to change that. The CTU has to set policy, support legislative reform in relation to information technology. What that means basically is all of the legislation, the regulations that govern technology across all sectors, whether it's tourism or agriculture. The CTU has to set that framework at a regional level. But regional policy is no good if it doesn't impact something that's happening at the national level. And so we want to make that connection between what is happening regionally with what is happening nationally. And that's the same for everything within CARICOM, whether it's public health or security and anything else. We have to be able to connect what is happening at the regional level with what is happening nationally, so that people understand the importance of us doing things regionally. They understand how regional initiatives help to drive investment, because the world sees the Caribbean as one place. You know, yes, Jamaica is prominent, maybe Bahamas, and there are others that would come to the fore when people think about the Caribbean, but really we are really seen as one space. And there is a collection of sovereign states, yes, but the more that we can work together, the more that we can do things in harmony to help to drive investment, to help to drive movement and trade and so on within our space, then the better that we will all be collectively.
Okay, I agree with you 1000%. And when I look at your mandate and what you need to do, and I look at the whole digital space and the Caribbean, I must admit, when you look at what is happening around the world, I don't think we are there yet in terms of what we need to be in order to be competitive and to fall in line with what, particularly from a touristic perspective, what visitors would expect when they come here, because it's happening where they live, so to speak. Do you think though that I see a bit of a change, or I hope we've turned a corner, because I think COVID has been the clarion call for us and the great equalizer. Do you think that we have been wrested out of our complacency due to the COVID epidemic, the pandemic, and what that has done? Now that coming out of that, do you think that from a digital perspective, a technological perspective, we could see real change, whereas before we may have been complacent, that we now see the need to change and to change now?
So the whole world has been jolted, for sure, right? Not just small island developing states, not just Barbados, Jamaica. But certainly if you look at global rankings, and the same way you have ratings for like Moody's, Standards & Poor's, for economic performance in countries, you have ratings for how ready a country is from a digital perspective. And so the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, has rankings, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the UN, and so on. And so our region ranks very low in terms of digital transformation, in terms of ICT readiness. And so for us, this is a very big opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to advance our initiatives in terms of digital transformation by as much as 10 years, all right? So there's definitely a push towards it. And governments have been doing bits and pieces, but now COVID has exposed our deficiencies in terms of ability to access government services, which are in a paper-based environment. Right? Whereas a lot of the countries like Singapore, the United States, and Canada have for many years been offering these services like second nature. You go online, you apply for this, you pay for this. But within the region, a lot of our services are still paper-based, right? They're still bureaucratic. And we have to be able to use this opportunity now to move those into the digital environment, to improve efficiency, but also to allow people who are coming here to work to be able to access government services. So, you know, as you well know, the government has been pushing the welcome stamp, for example, in Barbados, and trying to attract people to come here from all of the big...
and these are digital nomads.
These are digital nomads. They want to be able to access the same services. Okay, they don't want to have to be told they have to go to an office and stand in line and fill a form out to access, even if it's a rental car. They want to be able to access even the rental of a villa and stuff like that. So we talk about Airbnb, access to ride-sharing applications that they can come out of a club or come out of a restaurant and order a cab on their mobile phone. These are the services that they're accustomed to. And we have to use this opportunity now to move in that direction across the board. All services digital. And I think that would help us to move forward. And if we get that right, we have opportunities to be global players, because I've said before, this is the best place in the world to live. And once those amenities are there, there's no one that can hold a candle to the Caribbean.
I absolutely agree with you. You know, the old saying of we live where you holiday,
yeah.
and where you vacation. And really that is in itself is one statement to show how fortunate we are to live in the most beautiful space in the world that people pay millions of dollars to come to.
It is true.
I want to take a deep dive, a segue into a deep dive into the digitization of the travel and trade sector, or just the use of technology. Because of COVID, I think a lot of things have been brought center stage, such as Zoom, which is, you know, we do that every day now, touchless, cashless, online, e-commerce, etc. Do you see those becoming the new normal?
Most definitely, yes. And technology is disrupting all sectors, not just tourism, but you name it, it's disrupting in very different ways. And not just transforming, but really disrupting. So things that we take for granted now, which have transformed the travel and tourism industry, things like Expedia, the fact how it has disrupted the whole travel agencies, for example. There was a time when you went to a travel agency to book a vacation. People book their flights, their vacations now online. They do it from the comfort of their homes. They do it based on reviews from other travelers. When they get in situ, they book not just hotels, but they book they book a room in somebody's house that they've never met. But they're able to do that in a comfortable way because they've seen some reviews and others have said, you know, this is a great place to stay, the host is wonderful, and stuff like that. They arrive on island, never been here, and they pull up their phone and they use Google Maps or Waze to find their way around. This was impossible a decade ago, all right? So it has transformed ways that people book, ways that people, when they actually arrive, where they go. So they may hear, for example, about Cuz, but you know, because there's great reviews, this little guy who's selling, you know, fish cutters outside of this place. So the reviews on social media making a huge impact, the technology in terms of moving around, in terms of booking, in terms of doing research on where I should go, the ratings and all of that, I think is completely disrupted. And there's so many other ways that we can get into in terms of even how airlines are using technology to set prices on flights, to determine, you know, routes that they plan and all of that. So there is a huge disruption happening within the tourism sector based on technology.
Well, of course, I know I was coming to interview you, so I had to come good, right?
Yeah.
So I went and did some research. I studied for an exam into the whole issue of what is disrupting the travel and tourism sector. I knew some, but I also came across and I was blown away by. Yeah. And I just made a list of some of them, so we could kind of have a discussion in terms of where we are in terms of the implementation of this type of technology, and based on what is happening globally, if we have to go in that direction or if we be impacted one way or the other. Sure. Now, as you just said, the mobile technology, that is currently, I just saw some research a couple days ago that said the Gen Z, the 18 to 24-year-olds, prefer messaging to calling. So it was SMS, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp.
Of course.
They want to connect with their brands by messaging.
Yeah.
You know, upgrades, specials, different messages come in that would a more personalized type of experience.
Yeah.
So this is the future where if that generation is coming, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Correct.
Give me everything on my phone.
Correct.
This is the one-stop
Correct.
shop.
Correct.
And we need to go there if we are going to cater to this type of traveler. And as I said, the future is now. But some other things, we know Wi-Fi connectivity is number one. And I
Yes.
want to speak about that in terms of the region. Where are we in terms of Wi-Fi connectivity across the region? Because that is, as soon as people come, the first thing is their
They want to
Wi-Fi.
connect, yeah.
Especially if we're catering to the digital nomad, which a lot of the islands are currently doing. But recognition technology like face, voice, and fingerprint recognition, voice search, voice control, augmented reality. Before I thought augmented reality was just going to like a museum or you could see a landscape and you see these things pop up. They're now doing augmented reality menus.
Yeah.
Where the dish pops up and you
Yeah.
can see the ingredients
Of
and
course.
the texture. And
Yes.
I was blown away by that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where the world is going.
It is.
The whole issue of virtual realities, tours and events, artificial intelligence, where you have now like interactive robots, internet chat bots, travel bots. I was like, what is this? There's something called Connie the Concierge in the Hilton, and the robots are now doing some reception duties,
Yep,
room
service robots.
service,
Yep.
food and beverage. And remember Spot, the dog robot in Singapore that was doing
Yep.
social distancing?
Yep.
So those are the types. Also, Internet of Things, which I thought was, and I would like to urge everybody to Google that, the Internet of Things. It sounded weird, but when I delved a little deeper, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Big data, virtual assistants like Siri, blockchain technology, 5G, like mobile check-in services, wearable devices. The industry, it was mind-blowing to me when
Yeah.
I delved a little deeper and started to peel back the layers and realized that, wow, where are we from a regional perspective, from a touristic perspective? How far away are we? I don't know, you may not know this because that may be at a too micro level to be catering to the next gen traveler. And it's not just the visitors, I think locals too, when they travel and they're au fait with technology.
Yeah.
Where are we in terms of being there with all the aforementioned?
So you're touching on a lot of things.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Right?
just cherry pick a
And
couple.
this is great because the reality is that there are so many things happening, right? There is artificial intelligence, which is connected to big data, right? Which is connected to robotics, which is connected to the Internet of Things, right? And what that means is that that's why technology is disrupting every sector, because it has an application across every sector. And yes, people want to know that there's Wi-Fi. They want to know that there's either ride sharing or accommodation sharing applications, like is Airbnb available here in Barbados and things like that. And all of these different technology platforms are exploiting the data. Data now is the new gold, is the new oil. So
Yes.
not just that is allowing people to book, but you're able to see patterns of how long people are staying, how much they're willing to pay, what sort of reviews we are getting, and all of that is very valuable
Yeah.
to any industry, not just tourism or any industry. If you're able to see trends and they be able to then cater, right, and customize your product to to accommodate those trends, then you're going to be on top. So things about like augmented reality, as you mentioned, the ability to experience a place, to be able to do self-guided tours. I can walk around now and I can pass by the Parliament and scan a QR code with my phone and see the whole history of this Parliament building that goes way back. Right? I'm able now to be more appreciative of what I'm looking at. I'm able to then move from there, maybe go to the Jewish synagogue, maybe go to the Screw Docks and understand what this place looked like 100 years ago. And so the experience is more enriched, right? And if you go back even for gamification, things like Pokemon Go, there are people that travel the world to catch Pokemon on their phones, right? That's a whole different market that has been opened because people are able to navigate the streets and interact with the environment. So all of the things you mentioned are very relevant. You talk about robotics, for example, you move into manufacturing. Robots are able to produce more efficiently than humans are. So it is disrupting manufacturing as well, things like 3D printing. So this is a great time to be in the technology space, and to be honest with you, the lines are really blurring between technology and tourism and agriculture because it is so disruptive that it is impacting everything.
Well, that's absolutely great. Do you think that this type of technology, what do you think the benefits are? I mean, you just mentioned the ability to provide seamless service and a more personalized level of service, and that's
Right.
really what the consumer is looking for now.
That's what the consumer is
The
looking
highest
for.
level of personalization, and by big data and using all of these different, storing all of this information, you could provide a better service, and you know, running more efficient operations, reducing costs, etc.
Yeah.
Do you see, but you just said something there in truth in terms of labor and technology replacing labor. Now, in the case with the tourism sector, do you see, like we have robots now doing some, but tourism is still a human interaction is still a major part of the whole touristic experience. Do you see robots replacing tourism workers at some point, or do you think we have to find that balance or sweet spot between the human element and technology?
I think robots will replace us all eventually.
I think remember when we were small, we used to watch the Jetsons and think, wow, we're now living in the Jetson
We're
era.
headed there. There will always be the human element, there will always be the human touch, but there will be that generation of people who want to go and check into a hotel without talking to anyone. There
I
are
just
people
told you, the 18 to 24s already don't want to talk to
There are
anyone.
people who want to go and shop and don't talk to anyone. They just want to pick their stuff up, pay for it, or if they go to the store at all, right? So there is that element of it. The service robots are being rolled out across all sectors. In banking, you go, you interact with a robot. But I think that there will always be then opportunities for other sorts of social interaction besides, a front desk or what have you. And I think that's where the technology is taking us.
But when you look at the region, in the tourism industry alone, I don't even know how much across the board, 680,000 jobs were lost regionally, as well as $33.9 billion in 1 year. How do you see technology? Some people will go back into the industry. Some people will obviously have to look and have looked for work in other sectors.
Yes.
Is this now the time for us to create those better jobs, those high quality jobs, those technological based jobs? Do you see technology providing opportunities from that labor displacement that has taken place in the region over the last year?
Yes.
And what areas do you see
Yes.
those quality jobs springing up
well, you
in?
can look at it from many different perspectives. So if you look at technology platforms, they may not create jobs, but they provide economic opportunities. It means, therefore, that the guy in Kingsland, the guy in Checker Hall, St. Lucie, has a platform through which he can market his 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom place to the world, which he didn't have before. Right? He doesn't have to sign up with a real estate agent and pay fees. He's directly marketing to Australia, to Canada, what's that. So that's an economic opportunity. It's not a job, but it's an economic opportunity, an opportunity to earn some income. But on the flip side, the same way that some guys got together and developed Airbnb and developed Google and developed Facebook, is an opportunity for our innovators here within the region to develop platforms as well. There are no restrictions on intellectual capacity. And we've proven time again that we've been creative. The same way we can produce music, we can produce applications, we can produce technology platforms. And there are a lot of Caribbean nationals that work for these big tech companies that work in Silicon Valley. And what we need to do is create the environment here that innovation thrives, that the next big thing in terms of technology comes from the region. And that's within our capacity to do.
I completely agree with you from the perspective of, as I said, 680,000 jobs were lost. The majority of those jobs were small and micro businesses
Yes.
that were shuttered. 8 out of 10 businesses in the tourism sector globally are small and medium and micro businesses.
Yeah.
And the people who were impacted most were women, the youth, and the minorities. So in terms of finding a space for them and creating new jobs, particularly for small and micro businesses and entrepreneurs who
Yeah.
realize that we just could not, it's not if, it's when the next crisis hits. And we have to shut our
For sure.
borders like we had
Yeah.
in the last year.
Pandemic,
The economy
natural disaster,
collapses
what
because
have
of
you.
tourism.
Yeah.
We now have to look for other ways to still facilitate businesses across borders. I know Africa, when the wildlife tourism sector collapsed, they did a competition, a Beyond Tourism Innovation Challenge, and they invited people all around the world to send in, projects, etc. And a lot of them were digital and e-commerce and text-based projects.
Yep.
And I think we realized that in Barbados, where a lot of companies had to shift to doing business online, even
Yep.
though we'd never done it before. We were caught with our pants down.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that even if things return to normal, complacency doesn't take root again, and we realize that we have to keep moving in that direction.
Yes.
And
So things will not return to normal. That is my prediction. Things
well,
will not
yeah,
return
they
to normal.
cannot. I can't even say will not, Rodney. I'm saying they cannot, and I'm just hoping that we don't get, once things return to normal, we don't become complacent and still not carry on the journey
Yeah.
of completing what we started, to make sure that we will never be caught with our pants around our ankles again.
Yeah.
Now, like we said, so technology can create new opportunities, especially
It
for
certainly
small
can.
and micro businesses. Could be looking for job creation, business recovery, and technology can play a
Yes.
role in that.
Yes. Because we need to start moving away from being consumers of the technology and being producers of the technology. Like I said, everything doesn't have to originate from Silicon Valley. We have innovators here that can create the next thing. And Facebook will not be around forever, as big as it is, as billion-dollar company as it is. The next thing, we don't even know what the next thing is. But the next thing can come from here if we create that environment of innovation. And that's where we need to get to, and that's the point. And that's where the next billion-dollar company will be formed, like I said. And so if we understand technologies is disrupting all sectors and their opportunities, and we have to look for what is next, what is trending. Even in gaming, gaming is a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry globally. The whole idea of games, online streaming platforms, social media influencers. I can make money by simply being on YouTube and talking about my daily life if it is interesting to people, right? So there are all kinds of avenues that can be opened up, and
Yeah.
maybe even another streaming platform that provides a more customer-focused, view. So you mentioned before how all this data and stuff is impacting on customer service. What it does, it allows me to cater my service to you specifically. And if you on social media, that Facebook specifically targets you as an individual based on things you look for, based on things you like, based on your friends, based on your taste, all of that. So it's catered to you.
Yes.
And that's what the data allows. Whether you're a hotel, whether you're a restaurant, it allows me to understand my customer better. If I understand my customer better, and I'm able to offer a service that is specific to you. And I know that last time you were here, you ordered this, and we have that again, or maybe we have something that goes with that. We're going to recommend this or that. And yes, okay, these people really care. These people really understand me, and I'm able to patronize the business.
You are so spot on with what you're saying, because personalization has been for a while, but is now definitely taking center stage as one of the biggest trends in the travel and
Yes.
tourism industry. And technology can facilitate the provision
Yeah.
of such high quality customized service, especially for special interest travelers who are traveling for a specific reason.
Yeah.
And if you know what I want, that's where you build brand loyalty.
Exactly.
And I think that is an area where a lot of our, hotels or restaurants or attractions, we need to get to in order we
100%.
can provide the level of service that
Yes.
the traveler of today is looking for, particularly the millennials and the Gen Zs.
Yes.
And that is where we get our competitive advantage as a destination
Most
for
definitely.
Barbados and any other destination in the region.
Definitely.
So in terms of things like this, when we're talking personalization or augmented reality or virtual reality or robots, AI, etc., things that are proliferating in the global travel and tourism sector,
Yep.
that is going to impact us. And we, in order to remain relevant, we have to up our game and get there. Now, in order for that to happen, does your institution drill down to that granular level or that micro level, or it's up to the private sector to do its research and know what's happening and implement this? Or does something is done at a broader level from your organization to help? I know you cater to everybody, agriculture, manufacturing, so it's not just tourism. Even though tourism, for many of the region, is the #1 foreign exchange earner. So I'm just putting in a plug because there's so much, hedging on this to be successful. Does your organization advise, like the tourism sector, that this is the area you should be going in, and then it drills down to the private sector or the individual entrepreneur? How can your organization assist to usher the Caribbean tourism sector into the 21st century?
So it has to happen at all levels. There has to be government policy that creates the environment for private sector investment in technology, in tourism, and in all the other areas. But the private sector equally has to be innovative in the solutions that they're seeking to implement. And so it happens from both perspectives. We at the regional level try to create that harmonization so that as you move from country to country, the legislative frameworks are the same, the regulatory frameworks are the same in use of technology. Our main stakeholders are really the ministers with responsibility for information and communication technology. Now, the extent to which a country understands that technology is impacting all sectors, then is the extent to which we can then work with all sectors, all right, and not see technology in isolation. But our primary clientele, the ministers that we advise, are the ministers who have responsibility for technology. And so in different countries, you will see that there's that connection that has been made, the move towards national digital transformation. There have been multi-million-dollar World Bank and IDB loans to drive public sector transformation or national digital transformation. And so there is a technology component in tourism. And there's a technology component in agriculture. There's a technology component in manufacturing, using the same Internet of Things and robotics. So we are getting there. We're not there yet, but I think more and more people are understanding, because of the disruptive nature of the technology, that we're not just advising ministers with technology, we're advising nationally on how we can move towards a new digital environment.
Well, I'm very, very happy to hear that, because I know it's uncharted waters. So particularly the tourism sector, I'm sure there's some businesses that are currently doing some of the things we're talking about.
Yes.
And but we need for everybody to be on the same page.
The next level.
And we need to take it to the next level. So I'm very happy that you will be assisting and keeping this
I'll do my best.
Front of mind and helping to facilitate the process. But just one thing in terms of, we talked about technology being used for business recovery and job creation, etc. And the whole issue of economic diversification. I know I'm asking you some really out there questions, but economic diversification, particularly now, at a time where we have realized when the tourism industry collapsed that we need to institute a system of economic diversification as a protective mechanism to safeguard our economies for when, not if, the next crisis hits. What role could technology play? Because we've talked about economic diversification for decades, but for some reason, especially when tourism stumbles, but tourism tends to bounce back, and then we get back very comfortable, and then we carry on until the next stumble, because tourism, and say that we need to do away with it and do economic diversification. How can technology assist in diversifying the economy? I know we're talking agriculture, manufacturing, cultural industries, whatever.
So I think tourism will always be important to the region. Will always. It's the most beautiful place in the world to live. We will always have people coming in wanting to just get a taste of our culture, our food, our beaches, our wonderful sunshine in the winter months. That will always be one of our economic pillars, in my view. But technology does open new avenues. Like I said, the next big thing. If we can develop the next Facebook, the next Google Maps, the next big thing, there's significant economic potential for that. The next game, the next game that goes viral. You know, if we are able to do that, we're able to push our music on technology platforms and bring recognition to our local artists and have the next big star like Rihanna, you know, and others. Opens up avenues for economic activity, economic development. If you're able to leverage platforms to empower people who have a room, who, you know, again, it's tourism related, yes, but who can take their product or their service to the world. They may be accountants, advisors, who can leverage the technology platform and make millions of dollars from right here. They don't have to go to get a visa, they don't have to go to Canada, they don't have to do anything. They can stay here, provide those services to the world and bring in revenue for the country. So in terms of economic diversification, technology is where it is at.
I completely concur, and I think, you know, there were a lot of bad things that happened during COVID, but there were one or two, I don't want to say the word good, but positive things that would have come out, because it has really, it has forced us into directions and areas that we may not have done or gone in if COVID did not happen.
Yes.
And I hope that the lessons learned will augur well for us into the future.
Yes.
And I think technology is definitely an area that has come out on top in terms of front of mind, top of mind awareness for the region.
Definitely.
So this sounds really wonderful, and you have I don't want to say a huge challenge, you have your work cut out for you, but I believe that you're the man for the job.
Thank you.
In terms of achieving this though, what do you see as your major challenges to achieving what you're supposed to achieve, and how can we overcome those challenges?
Well, so you said I am the man for the job, and I believe I am, but I also need a strong team to work with. I need to build a regional network, and I think that's going to be critical, because we're talking about 20 member states that we represent. Clearly, this is not the job for one person. As good as you may think you are, you need a strong team. You need to build a network of people who can support this, who believe in this. You need ministers, you need prime ministers who also understand the value of technology. And the extent to which I'm able to convince them to be able, they're willing to accept advice and understand what is happening globally, is the extent to which I can be successful. And so that will be my focus, to build a strong team within the CTU. And also to be able to work more closely with our member states at the governmental level, who set policies that create the environment for investment, that attract private sector companies and all of that, because all of this is done really through government policies and through government support and all of that. And I think that will be my focus, and hopefully I'm able to do something positive.
Well, I agree with you that the whole issue of investment and the policies and regulations and the legislation that will assist and facilitate this process. Collaboration and cooperation is extremely important. In terms of a skills gap, do you think we have a skills gap, or there are people that are equipped and we just need to place them to the jobs and give them the opportunities? Or do we need for our workforce to be more versed in technology?
For sure, definitely.
So we have to bridge the skills gap in the region if we are going in direction of
100%.
Technology.
We have to. That has to be part of the national strategy. It has to be part of the regional strategy, to be able to build the capacity in terms of technology, in terms of developers, in terms of data analysts, data scientists, you name it, in terms of, you know, people dealing with artificial intelligence and robotics. We have to build that capacity here, and it has to be part of a national policy. It has to be fed into the curriculum, not at university, primary school.
Family goobers, the babas.
Estonia teaches their kids coding. Coding is the new language, is the new foreign language. So you need to understand coding, because everything is driven by code. Even the same artificial intelligence is really smart code. The Internet of Things, it is driven by software that tells devices what to do. And so that is the new language. If you're learning a foreign language, learn coding.
Wow.
Teach our children at the
So
primary school
from in
level.
Estonia, they're learning it.
Yes.
That is the way to go. Because
Yes.
even issues like
Everything runs on code.
sustainability, I think in Italy they're teaching it from the primary school, and
Yeah.
I do believe and agree with you. It all starts with the education, and once we are sure we have a vision and the direction we're going in, we then set up that education system to prepare
Exactly.
generation next to take
Exactly.
us to the next level.
Exactly.
So I completely agree with you. My last question to you is, what is your vision for the region with respect to technology, digitization, the digital revolution? What is your vision? Where are we now, and where would you like to see us in 5 years, 10 years? Where do we need to be in your mind for us to stand head and shoulders with the rest of the world?
Well, I definitely would like to see us as global leaders in technology. I want us to keep the best and the brightest here. I want us not just to keep the indigenous talent, but I also want us to attract the best and the brightest here as well. So all of the global technology companies that we now have so much respect for and have taken over the world, I want them to see the region as a base, as their home base. I go back to the fact that, if you had all the money in the world, if you had all of the choice in the world, where would you choose? You'd choose to come here. So if you can access everything, if you can do everything, then I think we just need to provide the technology platforms, and we will attract investment, we will keep our talent, and we will attract the talent, because this is the place, this is the epicenter of technology and digital transformation. So that is what I would love to see for our region. I want us to create high-end jobs. I want us to reach the place where people are not even working 8 and 10 hours a day, because there's so much economic opportunity, there's so much flexibility in terms of how we work, right? I can choose to get up at 2 in the morning and work for a firm in Australia or wherever, and then I take the day off, enjoy a good rum punch on the beach. That is what I see for us.
That is what life is all
and that is a
about.
blend of technology, and it's a blend of our culture, and it's a blend of who we are as a Caribbean people.
Truer words have never been spoken, and I completely concur with you on every level. I think the baseline in terms of the environment, our climate, the sunshine, we live in one of the most beautiful places on earth, and if we could just up our game in terms of, from a technological perspective, where
100%.
anybody could come here and we could, it's Barbados to the world, or the Caribbean to the world, we could then, the planets will be aligned and we will be unstoppable.
I think so too.
So I completely agree with you. Rodney, I wish you all the luck, because you're the man who is going to be in many ways at the forefront of this, charging into battle on the behalf of all of us to make all of this happen. And I know sometimes it can be challenging to get everyone on the same page. I saw something last night on the commission on the Caribbean Commission on the Economy,
yeah.
and they were speaking about creating a people-centered economic development, and one of the areas that was the most concerning was implementation. And it is true, because we do tend to have a bit of an implementation deficit disorder, and that has kept us back. We know what the problems are. We have a million shelf studies telling us what the solutions are, but just getting it over the line to implement. And a large part of what we're talking about here will require implementation. So I just hope that you get all of the support you need, all of the collaboration and cooperation, and that the region is ready to say we are ready to fulfill our true potential and take this to the next level. And I wish you the best of luck. I think you're going to do a fantastic job, and we will continue to watch this space.
Appreciate it.
So I'd like to thank you very much, Rodney, for having this chat with us today. I think you have really enlightened me and a lot of our viewers on the digital revolution, the digital economy, digitization. They have so many D words. And hopefully it's been a learning lesson for us, and we have heard something here that we could take and actually do and implement. And so I'd like to thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. And I also would like to thank Altman Villa Rentals for this beautiful space that they've arranged for us. So thank you so much, Rodney. All the very best to you, and we will continue to follow your progress.